Our next speaker is Volkan Ertürk. Volkan is the co-founder and CTO of Picus Security, and he's been in all of this since the beginning. In fact, Volkan helped pioneer the BAS space and founded Picus well before there was a breach and attack simulation space defined by Gartner. Not only did he help define it, but Volkan is going to be helping redefine it today with us here. So Volkan, without further ado, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ron. Nice to be here. In this session, I will talk about a lot of innovations that Picus has been working on over the years. Yet we know that it's not about the technology and the sexy features. It's all about you and your organization. So I will start with your questions and your challenges, what I hear from you and the Picus team hear from you over the years. So here are the 3 questions we constantly hear from security leaders and the practitioners. And you breach its headlines and you get a question, are we exposed right now? Or you get an email or you get a text saying like, hey, here's a security magazine article about the X threat group. Are you ready for that, right? And another question like, how secure are we? Like, you may say that, hey, we are running audits, Pentest, or secure attack simulations, but like how we can justify and understand that your defenses are working everywhere, across the time, all the time. And the next question we frequently hear these days is about, do I need to patch everything with the high-end critical vulnerability, even like we have been running attack simulations and we remove our gaps and we have better controls now? These are like great questions. So in this session, we're gonna tackle those questions, but to answer those questions, I just want to build the foundations. So I'm gonna briefly explain how Picus platform evolved over the years and how we become a unified exposure management platform. Then we will discuss how Picus leverages AI in the platform to address these challenges. And there are significant challenges as we discussed here, and AI is helping us to transform security validation to address these challenges. Then around these questions, then the next session, Autumn and Gürsel will showcase how these questions be answered on a daily basis. All right, that's the plan. Let's start. So 12 years ago when we founded the company, we are the first mover in breach attack simulation. We are the pioneer. We focused on breach attack simulation and helping you understand your security control effectiveness. So over the years, we advanced our platform, and I'm happy to say, proud to say that we become the best-in-class security control validation, helping you simulate, validate, and mitigate your security controls. 3 years ago, we said that, okay, like we solved this problem, but like this problem cannot be helpful by itself, but it's also really interacting and can leverage, help value to the other domains. So we start looking into what we can do in the other layers of information, which is like the asset data, vulnerability data, threat intel, and the business context. And as you may know, over the years' time, last 3 years, we launched different products, good number of products. We launched our Pentest automation 4 years ago, to be more accurate. Then we introduced our SIEM rule validation. Then we get into cyber asset attack surface management with our attack surface validation product and the cloud security validation. So it helps us to understand the business context and either to discover further exposures or pull the exposures that the organizations have and to build the synergies around security control effective data and the other layers of information or the other types of information you have in your environment. But that takes us into a very interesting position. So actually the problem we get into, like the other players or yourself, is we start managing these information in silos. So we help organizations to identify their gaps about security controls in our security control validation product. In Pentest automation, we help them identify and mitigate and manage their exposures. And on an attack surface management, we help them manage their attack surface management. So then we hear more and more organizations saying like, can we get a unified report? Can I have a unified prioritization? What are the synergies? Like, I fix this. What are the value add into other exposures I have? So that takes us 2 years ago into a journey. We build the building blocks, but now we are getting them together. Actually, these are not islands of information, but they are layers of information. And actually, when the layers get together, you have the organization. So we have been working on building your organizational context and start analyzing attack paths on your organizational context. So that is like, that puts into a transition, a transformation, and now we are not a security product suite that really covers giving you answers, providing you visibility about your different attack surfaces, but we put them together, and today I'm happy to share the new version of our platform. So as you can see, like, we nicely organize different domains together, and we call them now a unified exposure management platform. So before talking too much about this or getting into the details of this platform, I want to talk about each domain. So it will be a short dive, but I want to really define what it means for us and how it should resonate for you. So for the exposure assessment, it's about, and Gartner and the other analysts are also defining that way, helping you discover your gaps and putting them together. So we are talking about your network, application vulnerabilities, infrastructure findings, internal and external. So it gives you a unified and prioritized list of exposures. So you know all your exposures in a single list. It will be a huge list for sure, but at least you have a list there. The second domain is about security validation. It's helping you measure the control effectiveness, leveraging different Picus products, and the outcome is how you can measure and improve your control effectiveness to reduce your risk and your attack surface. So it gives you an understanding about how effective your controls are. And the third domain is exposure validation, which is about, okay, now I understand my exposures, I have my control effectiveness information, how we can overlay together so that we can assess the criticality of the exposures based on the organizational context. So you may remember at the beginning of the year, we announced our exposure validation product, and we have been working on attack paths for quite some time with our Pentest automation product and with our cloud security validation product. And the goal of exposure validation is evaluating and acting on the true risk. So when we have all the evaluations and understanding our true risk, like, the next step is either you accept it or you make a plan to reduce your risk. So exposure mitigation module domain helps you to have a data-driven decision support to understand and where you want to act on. And in the backend, we introduced a data fabric 2 years ago that transforms fragmented data into value fast and effectively. But definitely it's not a product that you daily interact with unless you are using our API. But the other products are leveraging the value and the scalability and efficiency of the data fabric. So that the data fabric unlocks our speed and efficiency to provide you this platform. So this is actually, now I dive into briefly each domain. Now it helps you better read this picture. Exposure assessment, helping you identify the risk. And security validation is about your control effectiveness, opportunities to reduce the risk. And when we sum up the exposure assessment and security validation, we get into our exposure validation, which is unlocking our true risk and you can mitigate and report on your security posture. So this is like how, that's the foundation, I would say. But as our call is about AI and how AI is changing exposure validation, so let's kick into that. We are in a post-LLM world. Things are advancing so fast, and there are two paths to walk here: leveraging AI for security and securing the AI itself. Today, we will focus on leveraging AI for security, and for sure, we will have a separate event in the coming months for securing AI itself. Okay, now let's dive into how Picus leverages AI in the platform to address the challenges we discussed at the beginning. So here is our approach. For Picus, AI isn't just an optimization layer for assessments and for security dashboards. It represents a change across the entire life cycle within the exposure validation. It changes how we create campaigns, how we run simulations, how we interpret findings. It's redefining how our exposure management platform will perform, will operate for you. So at Picus, now I'm going to share how AI is transforming in each layer, the developing attacks, run simulations, and the interpret findings part, and we will get into the weeds on a conceptual level here, and we will see in action, as I said, in the Gürsel and Autumn session in the coming part. All right, so here is the developing attack part. Currently, what we see is that what we know is that like pre-staging every attack, every TTP, every adversary group is not possible. So either you build your own custom threads, or you open a ticket to us, you work with our red team, our customer success team, to develop emerging adversary groups or techniques that you need in your environment. For sure, we have SLAs, like for the emerging ones, we deliver in a daytime, on average 8 hours. But if you open a case, and definitely we work with you guys to deliver it in a few days' time. But here is when we get the first question. Here is the incident we hear. Here is the security magazine article we read, and are we ready for that? Actually, you cannot say that, hey, I will give you an answer next week, see you. Actually, we have hours, we don't have days for that. And other than the time pressure, we also have, like, we need to be right, because like that question comes maybe not that frequently. That board member or that C-level executive is asking that once a year, twice a year. So the reliability and the quality of our data, our findings are also very critical. So it's a very tricky question, right? It's a low ball, let's say. And here is our approach to answer this question. Like, you can go to any LLM and say like, hey, draft me an emulation campaign, develop the payloads, give me how I'm gonna run it, right? So you can make that. And I have some partners even coming up saying that, hey, Volkan, look what we did here, it works. Then, okay, I said, that's perfect, like you're hitting the mark with the timing, but how about the other requirements, right? So how is the quality? How is your credibility? Can you trust this payload that is built by an AI engine? I don't think so, right? Maybe it just come up with the real sample that APT group has been using, or a ransomware group has been using, and it may say that here is your simulation campaign, and when you click that binary, boom, you may have big problems. Actually, you are not simulating, but you just find yourself into something else, right? So our approach is, definitely we need to ask AI, we need to leverage AI, but we need to use it in a smart way. So we can leverage AI to draft the emulation campaign, but we need to say that, hey, like Picus has been developing the emulation payloads over the years, then we need to say like, hey, I have a thread library. Map the campaign you built to my TTPs that I know that is high quality, low false positive, and just give me an emulation plan based on what I have based on my TTPs. And yeah, this works, I guess, between the timeline and the quality expectations of the requirements we discussed. So let's discuss into how this solution get into the action, right? So we have been working on this one over a year time, and how we envision the AI-powered adversary emulation is actually we talk to our red team, we look into what they're doing, and we ask AI to do very parallel to mimic what our red team has been doing, and the results are very interesting, very promising. So currently we are in an early build program. We are excited to launch it next month. So stay tuned for that. But let's dig into how it works. So it's starting with the intelligence gathering and sourcing. So it starts with like identifying the sources, right? So you provide a link, say like, hey, here is the FIN8 campaign. We say, are we ready for that? So it's the single link, but when the rating get that challenge, they look into, okay, how we can do further research about that one. So they discover further links and sources, and they do the analysis about, are those sources are trustworthy, and for the trustworthy ones, they extract the data and validate what they identify is actually there, makes sense for the FIN8 campaign. Then once we have, at the first step, we have a finished intel report. Once we have the finished intel report, then we get into deconstructing the adversary behavior and into identify, do the behavior analysis, do the TTP mappings. So we know that, okay, we now understand FIN8's campaign. Now we moved into, okay, this is the TTPs, this is the flow of that campaign. And the stage 3 is how we can sequence, how we can build that attack chain. And the building that attack chain is mapping those TTPs to the Picus library. How we do that? Actually, like we know all the best practices about building AI chatbots or AI bots, but the tricky part is we don't want a monolithic, a single agent approach, because like A, you cannot troubleshoot it, B, it's not scaling, and the quality is not there. So our approach is now we're introducing an orchestration agent and an agentic AI framework. So we have a planner agent that takes into the orchestration work, and it just kicks in the researcher agent. And the researcher agent is doing all the research. And once the finished threat intel report kicked in, working with the validation agent, it moves to the threat builder agent. And the threat builder agents put the threat together, move to the simulation agent and the reporter agent. So the secret sauce, like why not any person, any organization but Picus will stand out, shine out in this journey, is because we have been building and curating our threat library over the last 12 years. And what we did in the last 12 to 15 months is we have been tagging and improving our threat library to make it AI ready, so that now with the introduction of our MCP server, our threat library is sitting on a knowledge graph. AI agents can easily navigate and understand, find the right mapping for that campaign. And the results is you give, as we discussed, a FIN8 link, then it will run 3 steps, and it will come up with a, hey, this is the MITRE technique tactics, and these are the Picus actions you want to run to understand your readiness against FIN8. So this is like how we see it will evolve over time. It will help you accelerate your adversary emulation journey, not in days or weeks time, but in hours time. And our early adopter clients and our red team is so happy with the initial findings, as I said. So I will go to the next section, which is about the running simulations.
Hey, Volkan, there was a question that came in from the audience on the last slide. Yeah, the question says, what measures are in place to validate the output of the AI and prevent model hallucinations from creating inaccurate or flawed attack simulations?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Ron, this actually really goes back to our solution approach. If you really go and ask the AI to do all the journey itself, like the hallucination results will be chaotic, hectic, right? Because it may come up with, as I said, a malware payload that is not uh, like curated to work the to unharm the payload itself. So it will be tricky, right? You don't want to have that. And so putting it the approach of mapping the finished threat intel report to mapping the payloads is reducing that probability. And the second hallucination that may kick in is how you map the TTPs, how you build the threat intel report and map to the TTPs part. So for each stage, we have a different agent. As you can see, we have multiple validation agents. We are a validation company, so we love validating also what you're doing. So the threat validation and the research validation is also doing that. So if there's a hallucination, if one of the agents are missing the mark, definitely the validation agent kicks in and the planar agent is orchestrating that journey to be sure that we don't miss the mark on that part. But a great question. Like we can talk for hours, but I believe seeing is believing. So we highly encourage everyone to look into the smart threat, which in the next session, Gürsel and Autumn will put some light on that one too. So stay tuned for that. I hope this answers the question, Ron. So for the sake of time, I need to push forward. I need to move forward. So there are two other domains that we see that AI transforms exposure validation. The second one is running the simulations. So as we are all experienced that one, like the AI change introduces like we don't have any more clicks, but it's a conversation. So we express the intent and our conversation replaces the forms and the outcomes are frictionless. So you don't need to get into a learning curve. You don't need to navigate how things are working in a UI, but you just said that what you need and you expect, and most probably AI will provide you the response you're looking for. And this is like an early version of how we are evolving with Numi AI. So with that conversational interaction, you can ask Numi to run simulations, to enrich findings, and to deploy mitigations and reassess the security posture. So like all the main journey is we are overlay using the Numi conversations, and like we are also very careful because definitely it's a journey. Not everyone would like to use it from day one. So we keep it as optional. We don't enforce, we don't change the UI, we don't drop all our interface, but move to here. So we make it coexist with the current UI for sure. And the other interesting part about the running simulations that that is what he had been talking over a year time, adaptivity. So like we expect AI acting on your behalf. What does it mean? So AI to monitor what's happening in your environment, AI to understand what should be done, and based on the guidance the user, the organization provides, and AI launches the right action and either providing more visibility or strength resilience on that. So context driven security validation is the marketing buzzword we use for that. But let me give an example on that. So you can say that, hey, I'm very sensitive about my security baseline. I don't want to get any configuration drifts. So you can coach the Numi AI saying that, hey, when you hear emerging threat, when you hear an industry-based incident, when you see a policy change or a policy update or a new threat intel coming from my threat intel provider, launch the right simulation at the right context at the right time and give me what I need to do. Definitely you can orchestrate what can be done, but for the time being we are working on providing the visibility with the notification, with the alerts, and let the user understand what's going on and take an action on that. So as I said, we are very excited about the adaptive simulations here. Last pillar, getting there, interpreting the findings. So we will have 3 pillars here, and let's dive into the first one. From reports to AI insights. So almost 2 years ago, we introduced Numi AI, and which is like a copilot that helps our users to interact, understanding their posture and building actionable insights within the application. So it has been used not by every organization, but who really would like to be interacting and who has the compliance requirements compatible with to run the Numi AI part. And the second part is definitely like we are advancing this one, so we're gonna see more curated custom reports coming up from this AI insights part. And the second one is that's also a very interesting project I'm closely following my product management team here. Prompt-driven widgets. Like, as you know, we launch our risk dashboard, we introduce lots of widgets, but we always see that, hey, which are the right widgets for me, how I can customize it, how I can build my custom widgets. So our customer success is really helping our clients around this one. But now we are stepping up, hey, we provide you prompt-driven widgets, you write what you want, and Picus will work, Numi will work with you to build custom widgets you need and the custom dashboards you need in your environment. So we are stepping up on this one. Definitely there will be still the drag and drop and customization in UI is available there, but we are also introducing second track for widget customizations and custom reporting. And the last one is evidence-based security scoring. So exposure scoring is the last piece I want to discuss, because understanding your security control effectiveness raises questions like how I can leverage my control effectiveness score to better prioritize my exposures. Perfect. It's really helping you answer that. Actually, can an attacker really reach and exploit this vulnerability? Yes, yeah, it makes sense, but this actually takes us to another domain that we launched at the beginning of the year, which is the exposure validation, right? For the ones who don't remember or who are not with us, I want to really reframe the definition of exposure validation. It's about the process of verifying whether an exposure you have is actually exploitable or it's a theoretical one. If it's a theoretical one, for sure you want to deprioritize and focus on what matters most for your environment, right? And what we have been doing is we have, let's say, Log4j in our environment. We have different layers of security controls, but we are looking into only a CVSS score, exploitability score, and an asset criticality, and we come up saying that actually they're all critical. But actually we are ignoring the security controls we have in our environment. Maybe the first asset is facing internet, but the one on the very right hand side is actually behind additional security control layers, and you need more discount on that one. But the current way of vulnerability management is ignoring this one. So exposure score revisited, introducing security control effectiveness is definitely addressing this change. And how it works is, like, we are running attack simulations to validate your controls. So for the agents you have in your environment, definitely it's no-brainer. You get the vulnerabilities, you get the attack simulation results, you can blend up to get an answer. But what is tricky is that what if, which is the case, like, you don't want to deploy agents across your environment. So what you want to do is, without deploying agents, you want to get that control effectiveness score. So we developed a supervised machine learning model that predicts how your security controls on any device will perform against the simulation attack. And we calculate this, we made this one leveraging your threat simulation results and attack simulations. And we call this an extrapolation engine, and this helps you to calculate what your exposure score will gonna look like in every device and for every vulnerability, every exposure on that device. So we start with 3 questions, and they were like hard questions. We've been through a lot of what we discussed under the platform and the AI advancements. So sorry for the long-tailed answer for that one, but we are getting there. And the first question is like, as you know now, when if a new breach hits and you need an answer, you can go to Picus Smart Threat and you put the URL, you put the news article, and you get a response of the attack simulation you need to execute, and either leveraging Numi AI or your UI clicks, you can get the results. And how secure we are? Definitely can ask Numi AI, build the scope and run it, and you get the reporting about that one. And not to mention, Picus platform introduces the organizational context, which you can leverage Numi to curate the simulation scopes and everything there too. And the last question, do I need to patch everything? No, you shouldn't. Don't do that. What you can do is you can leverage your control effectiveness to get a deprioritization list of your exposures so that you can focus on what is truly exploitable in your environment. But what we discuss is what are the 3 critical questions in your environment and how Picus answers those questions, unifying all the security layers you have in your environment, contextualizing your business needs, and managing all the entire exposure management journey for you. And we discuss how Numi is and will be automating, simplifying, translating, and delivering the exposure management journey for you in a nutshell. Thank you very much for your time. Ron, over to you.
Thank you, Volkan. AI-powered breach and attack simulation. What a time to be alive. If you think about all the vulnerabilities and all the threat groups that you tracked, think about how amazing it would be to take the most important part of your job, validating and remediating exposures, and reducing that from days and weeks to maybe an hour or 2 or a few minutes. If I were able to do that, I would ask for a promotion, but that's just me. And, with what Volkan showed, we see how the AI is going to help with doing research, mapping TTPs, and also creating those runnable attack chains so we could take a little bit of that load of manual work off of our plate. Now that we've looked at the future, it's time to roll up our sleeves and see how all of this really works, how all of this works in the field from the architects